93.3 The Wolf, the Valley's rock station. Fast Freddie here, and coming to Packard Music Hall on February 16th. We got a big show that I'm really looking forward to. Tesla is going to be rocking the house, and with me right now is Tesla lead singer Jeff Keith. Jeff, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Fast Freddie. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're really looking forward to it.
Hey, I can't wait to see you guys coming to Packard Music Hall. Now, we met a long time ago. I think it was back in 1992, and I'm sure you hear this kind of stuff all the time, but we did a in-store at a record store back in 1992 here in Youngstown. I guess you guys don't do too many record store things anymore, the way things are going, huh?
No. You have to do it at a download store now.
Exactly. Hey, what was the first album that you bought?
The first album that I bought, well, I'll tell you what, growing up in Georgetown, California, in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains, about an hour outside of Sacramento, we used to pass around 8-track tapes, and the labels were always bubbled off, but so we used to just pass around these 8-track tapes, and so my first record I ever bought, gosh, it might have been when I was a kid. My mom got it for me. It was Davy Jones.
Okay.
He was the singer for the Monkees.
Right.
And I think that might have been my first one. But, I know that my first concert was Down the Green, number 3, at Oakland Coliseum in 1978 with Aerosmith, Foreigner, Pat Travers, AC/DC, and Van Halen was opening the show because it was 1978.
Right.
And after that concert, we went back to Nancy's Records in Auburn and bought everything that AC/DC had available. So I'm going to have to go with an AC/DC 8-track.
Okay.
It's probably my first album I ever bought.
Very cool. Yeah, on that 78 tour, too, we had a version of that here in Cleveland, and it was Aerosmith, Journey, Ted Nugent, Scorpions, Thin Lizzy, and there was just one more on there. But yeah, that was Bon Scott's last tour after that too, because he passed away in February that following year.
I know, man. I know. It just crushed me to lose him. He's like really my all-time. I mean, Steven Tyler, all the bands you're mentioning, and the Foreigner, and Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and all that, but Bon Scott, something about him when he came out in 78, he had on jeans and tennis shoes, no shirt,
yep,
and was just rocking that mic, and I was just like, wow, what an inspiration, because it inspired me that being a little town guy I am, that you don't have to be all fancy and dressed up. You can come out there in jeans and tennis shoes and rock that mic.
Absolutely, man. And I can remember in Cleveland, anyways, they had a real long mic cord because back in those days, they didn't have any cordless equipment. And I can remember Angus coming out like on a roadie's shoulder with this real long guitar cord, and he was just jamming out there in the middle of the stadium. And you had Bon up on stage. Boy, that was really something to remember.
Oh, I'm telling you, at that Down the Green, we were like, is this guy really playing just down there on the floor, just rolling all over the place? But he was, and it was good stuff, man. It's been an inspiration ever since.
Oh, that's awesome. We're talking to Jeff Keith from Tesla. Tesla's coming to Packard Music Hall on February 16th. Jeff, all these years I've been a huge fan of the band, but I've never really had a chance to get out and see you guys. And I'll tell you what, I can't wait to see you guys at Packard Music Hall, because this is going to be a little different than, I know you've been on tour with Def Leppard, and you're going to be back out on the road at like the big sheds this summer. But I think to get a chance to see you guys in a smaller hall and doing your whole show, I think that's going to be really something to see here, and I'm getting pumped up for that.
Yeah, we're pumped up because we get to do a headlining set, and we even get to break out our old bar stools, and probably break the set down to the acoustic, do acoustic songs on the bar stools, and we get an hour and a half, so we get to play a lot of songs that we don't get to play on the bigger tours,
Right, and I think being up close, too, is going to make a big difference, too, because sometimes I go to these big shows and you're way out there. That's why I'm looking forward to this one, man, because everybody's going to be up close. It's a smaller hall, and I think it's just going to be off the hook.
It's called intimacy, man. It's going to be intimate, and it's going to be great.
Absolutely. Now, like I say, I've been a fan for the band from day one. You know, I kind of think that you guys got a raw deal when grunge came out. It seemed like right there when you guys were just starting to really, really crank, and it was like grunge come out, and then all of a sudden everybody was labeled a hair band, and you guys aren't a hair band. Like you say, you're a straight up rock and roll band. And did you feel that you guys kind of got like unfairly pigeonholed or something at that point in time?
Well, it's funny because before we for Bustin' Nut, we went over to Europe and we were doing all this press and stuff, and we were being asked, so what do you think about this grunge movement? And we're like, what movement? And they're like, a grunge movement. And we're like, we don't know what you're talking about. But we never relied on our on our appearance.
Right.
We always like to write songs from the heart. And that way we still believe in them 30 years later, and we're still playing them every night. But we believe that when the grunge thing came through, everybody that relied on image, you were immediately tossed out. So we believe they let us stick around, and because we never really, focused on how we looked and stuff. It was all about the music. And so we believe that they let us stick around, or however it worked, that we're still doing it 30 years later, put it that way.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the strength of the songs, like you say, man. You guys got an awesome catalog, man. It's just a lot of good stuff. Now, you mentioned the album Bustin' Nut. How'd you guys come up with that title?
Well, because we started off with mechanical resonance, which was a theory of Nikola Tesla. And he could split the earth in half with certain little, like putting little sound barriers or wherever, and he could split the earth like an apple.
Right.
So the second record was the Great Radio Controversy, because Marconi stole the patent, and then 6 months after Tesla had passed away, the Supreme Court ruled that Nikola Tesla was the father of radio, and so he was the underdog and all this stuff, and rock and roll has always been the underdog. So, we started coming up with Psychotic Supper. Was he used to sit down and he used to measure out on his napkins and everything. He'd wipe all his forks, and he was very like kind of OCD or whatever you want to call it with things. Right. And everything had to be divisible by 3. And so we thought, well, the way he used to sit down at a table and eat like that and go through all that, we came up with our own thing and started. The first 2 were his theories and are based upon him. And the third one we thought, well, we're going to put our own little twist to it, and we called it Psychotic Supper. Right. And so then when Bustin' Nut came along, I think, Brian, we just said, hey, let's call it Bustin' Nut, because, they were always, busting the guy's chops, and they took him as a nut. Right. Which really, we're using a lot of his stuff today, wireless, all these drones and all this stuff. He came up with all this stuff, and he used to see little spears of electricity in the air, and he says we can send, you communicate through these little spears of electricity in the air, and everybody's like, man, you're out of your mind. Right. And it turns out that we're using all this wireless now, which he invented.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely an interesting character. So what motivated you guys to name the band after him? At what point did you say, hey, let's name the band after Tesla?
Well, we were in Bearsville, New York, and we were halfway through with the album. Our management and Tom Dutot from Geffen Records, they said, hey, we'll give you guys a chance to come up with some band names, because our club name was City Kid with 2 Ds, and we knew we didn't want to, if things worked out right, we didn't want to be grown men being called City Kid. Right. So we tried to come up with all these names. We couldn't come up with nothing. So Cliff Bernstein, Peter Mensch, and Tom Dutot got us in the studio and said, listen, you're halfway done with the record. We have to start printing stuff up. You guys couldn't come up with names, so they told us everything about the inventor. And all he did, he's an underdog, and the AC is what we power the amps with, and all these things, and being the underdog. And so they told us everything about him, and then so we said, well, what's the name? And they said Tesla, and we kind of turned our heads sideways like the RCA dog, and it sounded so weird, but now Tesla sounds so normal.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, what a great name, man, for a band. Hey, I understand. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, we just wanted to name the band after something also that people could look into rather than just a cool name. There's a lot to look into, you know, everything behind the guy. So that's another reason why we did it.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. We are talking with singer Jeff Keith from Tesla. As you know, they're coming to Packard Music Hall on February 16th. I can't wait for the show, man. It's going to be an excellent one. Now, Jeff, you guys are working on a new album, too. Tell us about that.
We're working on a new record with Phil Collin, guitar player from Def Leppard, is producing. And he wrote a song for us when we were on tour with Def Leppard and Styx year before last, and we decided to record Mechanical Resonance live. And then Phil Collin wrote this song, Save That Goodness, for a bonus track. And we listened to it. We recorded it. He let us put our Tesla stamp on it, and it really worked out well for us and even got us on some charts we haven't been on in years. And so after that happened, we thought, you know, we started talking with Phil, and he says, hey, would you guys be interested in me producing a record for you guys? And we said, absolutely. I mean, the guy is such a sweet, just the greatest person as a person. He's one of my favorite artists. He's a great songwriter. He's a great producer. He's a great everything, Phil Collin is. So we're just more than happy, and we probably got half of it in a can already because when we come off from every tour, we got, oh, there goes a Tesla car passing me right now. But, yeah, so we're just having fun with it and just having a blast with it, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're making a record, having fun with it, write songs that we hope to be playing 20 years from now. So it's going great, and we couldn't be happier, and we're so thrilled that Phil just believes in us so much. You know, and he just really took us under his wing. And Def Leppard has always been our big brother since the Hysteria tour, and they took us under their wings then. But Phil has personally taken us under his wing, and he's helping us, and he's just helping us make a record that we've been wanting to make for a long, long time.
That is very awesome. So we'll look for that coming out here as soon as you get it finished. But before then, we're going to check you guys out February 16th at Packard Music Hall. Jeff Keith from Tesla, thanks for taking some time out with us. And like I say, man, big fan, and I can't wait to check out the show when you guys come rolling into town.
Hey, we're looking so forward to it. Thank you, Fast Freddie.